How did this happen? Yuji Chion couldn't understand the current situation. Soma was babbling about something next to him, while a man who was presumed to be him was walking beside Soma. Yuji Chion had cold sweat running down his body. He could also feel his heart beating so violently as if it was about to explode. All of this was because of the man walking by Soma's side. Since the man's face was half covered with a scarf, Yuji Chion couldn't see his face. But with his perfectly still eyes and refined atmosphere, he was sure of the man's identity. Pyeowul. On their way back home, Soma and Pyeowul met Yuji Chion. Soma was curious when he saw Yuji Chion rushing out in the middle of the night with his escorts, since the Yuji Chion he knew was not the type of the person who would leave his abode no matter how urgent the situation was. Soma persuaded Pyeowul and headed to Yibin, where the White Clan is located, along with Yuji Chion. Pyeowul realized that Yuji Chion had figured out his identity. But he didn't really care, because he knows that Yuji Chion is not someone who will reveal his identity to anyone. Yuji Chion is a very cautious person, and he hated seeing others be harmed because of him. He would never reveal Pyeowul's identity since he knows that it might bring Pyeowul's resentment to the people of the Snow Cloud Villa. Yuji Chion had already been in Chengdu for a long time, so he was sensitive to the situation in the area. While he was aware of the situation through the news and rumors he had heard, there's still a difference from seeing the said person face to face. Soma was still smiling. Pyeowul realized that Soma was genuinely feeling happy. Soma had only stayed in Chengdu after leaving the Xiaolia Lion Temple. He was very excited at first, but as time passed, he got used to the environment, so he didn't feel the same excitement as before. Now that he had the opportunity to go out of Chengdu, he began to feel excited again. It didn't matter why Yuji Chion is going out to Yibin for. The important thing is that Soma is going to Yibin with Pyeowul. Soma's emotions were clearly visible on his face. Pyeowul looked at Soma without saying a word. Soma was a child who believed in Jashin and followed him, so it was nice to see him smiling like this rather than being depressed. At that time, Yuji Chion carefully spoke to Pyeowul. From here on, we have to go by boat. In front of them was a pre-prepared ship was waiting at the pier. It was a fairly large boat that could accommodate more than 30 people. Pyeowul asked, "Did you say you were going to Yibin?" "Yes. If we take a boat, we will be able to arrive tomorrow morning." Yuji Chion replied cautiously, although Pyeowul could as well be his own son given his young age. Yuji Chion's attitude toward Pyeowul was very polite. This is because he knows that if the man in front of him makes up his mind, his life as well as his base can be completely destroyed in one night. Pyeowul looked at him and said, "There is nothing to be so nervous about. After going to Yibin, we will move separately." "Oh? Yes. Thank you." Yuji Chion unconsciously thanked him. That's how nervous he was. Pyeowul was such an existence. A person who brings fear to others just by being with them. Anyone would feel reluctant to travel with him. Meanwhile, Yuji Chion's bodyguard looked at Pyeowul with distaste. He didn't know why his employer was shivering so much. A haven for bookworms and dreamers. Who is that bastard to make Lord Yu so frightened? He had great respect for his employer, Yuji Chion. Seeing Yuji Chion, who he respected, shivering like that towards an unknown person, made him want to kill the other man. The escort warrior vowed to take care of Pyeowul when the opportunity comes. The ship carrying Pyeowul sailed through the river at high speed. Dozens of sails hung on the ship. This allowed the ship to move forward at high speed even in the dark night. "This is nice." Soma sat on the deck and smiled broadly. The cool night breeze blew and swept through his body. The cold sensation he felt on his body could not feel any more good. Pyeowul sat next to Soma and looked at the river without saying a word. The boat ran through the river overnight and arrived at its destination, Yibin. When they arrived at the dock in Yibin, the warriors of the White Clan appeared. They were already waiting to welcome the guests arriving by boat from afar. "Welcome, Lord Yu." The person who greeted Yuji Chion was Suk Jongsan, a disciple of No Kong Myong. "What happened? Did he really die by chi deviation?" "That's what happened. Let's go to the White Clan." Senior brother will explain it to you. All right. Suk Jongson led the group of Ugi Cheon to the White Clan. The White Clan was full of people who had come to express their condolences. Every single person who had even a little bit of a relationship with the White Clan attended. The great disciple, Kwak Jongon, was welcoming people who came to offer condolences. Ugi Cheon approached him and held his hand. How did this happen? You have come to Lord Yu. I can't help but be embarrassed. Is it true that sect leader No died because of chi deviation? It's true. You're lying. Lord Yu. Kwak Jonghan's eyes shook. He was not accustomed to lying, and Ugi Cheon is a man skilled in detecting lies. Why? Ugi Cheon whispered quietly, show me the body of your sect leader. What for? I will swear to keep this a secret. I already know that sect leader No did not die of chi deviation. So please don't lie to me. Lord Yu, you're asking for a difficult request. If you don't show me Lord No's body, the White Clan will be in even more trouble. I will end our relationship now. Kwak Jongon bit his lip at Ugi Cheon's resolute words. The Snowcloud Villa is the White Clan's greatest supporter. If the Snowcloud Villa's support is cut off, the downfall of the White Clan, which recently lost its sect leader, will be even more devastating. You must keep this a secret. I promise. Kwak Jongon sighed for a moment at Ugi Cheon's answer. He carefully guided Ugi Cheon to the room where No Kongmyong's body was enshrined. Our sect leader died in this room. What's the real cause? That is, tell me. He died while having sex. Kwak Jonghan bit his lip with a shameful expression. During sex? Yes. He died after doing it with a female servant. What? Really? If it wasn't for that, would I have dared to say that he died of chi deviation? It's hard to believe, but it's true. He died on the bed over there with a female servant. There are still traces of that time at the mattress. At Kwak Jonghan's words, Ugi Cheon looked at the mattress. The traces of the love that the two shared remained vividly on the mattress. Oh my God. Did he really die while doing it? Ugi Cheon let out a sigh. It was hard to believe the fact that a great man as influential and powerful as No Kongpyong would die while sleeping with a young servant. However, there was no reason not to believe it, given the traces which were clearly left. That was then, it's poison. Suddenly, a cold voice was heard. Who are you? Kwak Jongon was startled and grabbed his sword. He clearly made sure that it was only him and Ugi Cheon in the room. So how could he hear someone else's voice? Thinking that his master's shameful secret might be exposed, he drew his sword without hesitation. Why did you come in without permission? He pointed his sword in the direction the voice came from. There stood a man whose face was half covered with a scarf. The man who had his face covered with a scarf didn't care whether Kwak Jongon was aiming his sword at him. He only looked at the area where the candle melted. Kwak Jongon raised his voice as he held his sword to the man's neck. Who are you? Don't. Ugi Cheon tried to stop Kwak Jongon. He stopped in front of Kwak Jonghan and said to Pyo-woo, a man whose face was covered with a scarf, forgive me. This guy doesn't know anything. Lord Yu. Can you put back your sword? Come on. Since Kwak Jongon remained silent despite his shout, Ugi Cheon took the sword from his hand. Why are you doing this? Lord Yu. Look at your neck. Why? Huke. Kwak Jongon, who casually looked at his neck, was horrified. All of a sudden, a wheel with a blackened blade was attached to his neck. When Kwak Jonghan's face turned white, the owner of the wheel was Soma. Soma sat on Kwak Jonghan's back and held the wheel to his neck. But he didn't feel any weight at all. It was clear that if Soma applied even a little bit of force, his neck would be severed. Soma whispered in Kwak Jonghan's ear, don't move, brother. Don't talk and don't even take a deep breath. Kwak Jongon turned into a stone statue. But his eyes were trembling like mad with fear. Phew. Ugi Cheon sighed at the sight of Kwak Jongon. Compared to No Kong Myong, who was the previous sect leader, Kwak Jongon was clearly lacking in many areas. The future of the White Clan already looked bleak. While Ugi Cheon looked at Pyewool. Pyewool was still looking at the candlestick. What do you mean by that? Poison. Do you mean that the sect leader was poisoned? Yes. How do you know that? Because there is a poisonous scent coming out of the candle. Most of the poison has disappeared since the candle has already melted, but there is still a little bit of remains. Pyewool touched the candle wax with a look of interest. The hardened candle wax melted as he rubbed his fingers. Then a little bit of poison came out. The amount was so weak that an ordinary person could not detect it, but it could not deceive Pyewool's sensitive nose. Pyewool approached the coffin containing No Kong Myong's body. He opened it. Then the body of No Kong Myong with his hands on his chest was revealed. Pyewool carefully examined No Kong Myong's body. After a while, he got up and muttered, "Really well done." What does it mean? The culprit hid the poison in the candle. It's a great way of disguising the assassination. It made the others think that the person died while having sex. Oh, Ugi Cheon was at a loss for words. If anyone else had said it, he would never have believed them. But the guy who said it was Pyewool. These were the words from the man who was called the Reaper. There was no way such a man would speak nonsense. Pyewool looked at Kwak Jongon. Where is the female servant's body? Tell me it's still intact. At that moment, Soma gently lifted the wheel that he had placed closely on Kwak Jonghan's neck. We burned it. Already? We did it to protect Master's honor. You made a mistake. What? Wasn't the female servant responsible for managing this room? If that's the case, then the female servant might have been the one to bring the candle. Ah. Only then did Kwak Jongon realize the reason, and let out a sigh. In order to protect the honor of No Kong Myong, he didn't hesitate to burn the body of the female servant. He didn't know that his action was actually a big mistake. The girl might have something related to the assassination. But since he had her body burned, all possible evidence has disappeared. His impatience ruined his chance to catch the culprit who poisoned his master. He couldn't lift his head in guilt. Who the hell is Master? Kwak Jongon trembled. Pyewool didn't even look at Kwak Jongon and asked Ugi Cheon, "Were you suspicious of his death from the beginning?" Yes. Sect leader No recently mentioned that he lost interest in practicing martial arts. So it doesn't make sense for him to die because of it. Most of all, there have been a couple of people who have died the same way as sect leader No. Really? Their declared cause of death are the same. Chi deviation. What about their bodies? I'm thinking of going there to see it myself. Let's go together. Are you sure? But why are you interested in this? I don't think it has something to do with my lord. I just don't like having someone else messing around in my area.